Hello everyone, welcome to my video. Today we're going to be creating Galaxies using Adobe Photoshop. Don't be intimidated, we're going to go through it step by step. I'll show you everything that you need to know and you're going to end up with a fantastic project that looks like this. Once you log in, you're going to see this beautiful mountain range. I'm going to turn down the volume a little bit. You'll see this beautiful mountain range, and at the bottom this is called the dock, and the dock has all of your programs that you're going to need to use. PS right here, that's Photoshop, that's what you'll need. These are different minimized windows that I have, and in order to minimize and to bring it down here into the bottom, you click right up here in the corner. Orange is going to make it disappear. Yellow is going to make it vacuum its way down into the dock here. Green is going to make it pop up full screen, and all you have to do is take your mouse and move your mouse up to the very top of the screen, hit green again, it'll shrink it down, and if you hit the red button it will disappear and it's gone. The other things that you'll need to know about the computer is in the upper corner here in the top left you're going to see a little apple, and at the very end you're going to go to log out. I'm not going to log out now, but at the end of the period that's what you'll do. If you want to shut down, you can shut down, or you can go to log out, and that's in the upper corner. What we're going to do today is we're going to start by going into Photoshop, and it's the PS at the bottom. If you don't see this PS on your machine, look at your keyboard, and at the very top of your keyboard you click F4, and F4 is going to bring up this menu that looks like this. F4 is going to show you all your different programs, and on the mouse there's a little mouse ball that lets you swipe, and when you move the mouse ball left and right, it'll show you different programs that you can choose. And we want to choose Adobe Photoshop from here, this PS, or you can click it down here. They both do the same thing. So I'm going to click it here, and you'll notice when Photoshop starts loading, it'll bounce like this. The bouncing means that it's currently loading, and you'll see this pop up. So if this pops up, you know that it's loading and you're on the right track here. So what happens with Adobe Photoshop when you log in is that it's going to ask you to log into Adobe. Now that's a new feature that our school, it's just so that the program is going to work properly, and so many things we use at school we have to log in. To load, it won't take very long, but in a minute what we'll see is this will pop in as a sign-in. There it is, and what you're going to use is your school's email address. So yours is going to be very similar to mine, except for you have a dot and then your graduation date, and then you should have at the end Geneseo, Geneseo, CSD.org. CSD.org. Now I'm going to copy it. I'm going to click and drag over top with my mouse and copy it. I'm going to go to Command C for copy, and I'm going to go to edit. Oh, it won't even let me. Okay, that's good. I'm copying it just in case, and we'll see in a minute if I need to. We're going to click continue, and we're going to hit school account, and we're going to wait and see. Sometimes it has me put my login in twice, so that's why I copied it. Yep, there it is. So right here what I'm going to do is hit Command V for paste, and by the way, on a Mac computer and an Apple computer, the command button is the same as control on a Windows computer. So when you hit the command button, it's the same thing. So it's that button at the bottom that kind of looks like a little splash or a flower. So I pasted that in, or you'll have to type it in twice if you didn't copy it the first time. We hit next, and then you're going to put in whatever your current password is. So here's my current password. Let's see if it works. Stay signed in. Yeah, I don't want to show this again. I don't want to sign in again. And then we click yes to log in, and it says signing into Adobe. We're going to see that little thing spin around. It's going to take a second to load, and hopefully we are going to be in. Come on, Adobe. If you ever want to empty your trash, you click and hold on the trash, hold down your mouse, you go up to empty trash, and you can empty it like that. And now the trash is emptied as well. That's going to take a little bit for Adobe Photoshop to load, but once it does, we're going to actually open our template file in a second. So I'm going to, Photoshop opens, you're going to see a screen that looks similar to this. If you've had things you've opened recently, they're going to show up here. These are different things we've done in our photography class. And then over here on the left, you're going to see a little button for open. We're going to click open, and what we need to do is find our downloads folder, which is right here on the left. So we want to click on downloads and see what we have in here. And the one we're looking for is the one that says Galaxy template.psd. We hit open on that, and what our Galaxy template is, the Galaxy template is what we're going to design right over top of. Your Galaxy template may have your name attached to it as well. It may say Galaxy template and then your name before or after. If it does, no big deal. Let's take a look at Photoshop once it finally opens. If you want to move your whole program around, there's a gray bar at the top that you can move, and in the bottom here, if you move your mouse to the edge of the program, you'll notice that the mouse changes, and you can drag that open or go in the bottom corner and make it bigger or smaller. So if you want to, once you're watching this video, you can put the video on one side and you can put your project on the other side. So you can move it here, and then over here on the left-hand side, you can be watching the movie. So you have the movie on one, and then you have your project over on the other side. So that's up to you whether or not you want to do that. But since I don't need that, and I'm going to be showing you how to do it, I'm going to make Photoshop full size right now. And what I like to do is go through a couple little things just so you guys understand how the program works, how it's set up. At the very top up here, this is called the menu. So you can click on the different menus and see the different drop downs. So if I refer to the menu, it's all of this up top. If I refer to the toolbar, it's over here on the left. These are all the different tools that we're going to be using for Photoshop, okay? And over here is all these different windows that we can use. If you ever need to add a window, you can go up to the window menu and we'll add new things in. Our layers we're obviously going to need. If we want to look at things like swatches, I can go to swatches here, and that pops up all my different color choices on the side. So you can add and subtract any of these things, or you can take your menu items like swatches and you can pull them right out of this little bar over here, and you can use them while you're working, and you can take them and drag them back in, and when it highlights blue, then you can pop them right back in again. But the main one, the most important one that we're going to be using is this one called layers, and you can even drag your dividers up and down so that it makes it a little easier for you. So I'm going to drag my divider up so I have space below because we're going to be adding more layers. Another little tip for you guys for this too is if you make any mistakes at any point, if you go up to the window menu and pull down and go to history, what this is going to show you is every move we've made so far. So if I quickly take a paintbrush and I draw and I scribble and I take another color, I click on a color from my swatches, change it, do this and make a total mess, and then you look over here, you'll notice that this is all our history of everything we've done, and we can go forward or backward in time, but I'm going to go right back to open just because it'll get rid of all those other goofs that I made there. But just so you know, if you open history, you can go back and fix mistakes that you made. That's how history works. Next thing we're going to need to do is look down here in the bottom corner, in the bottom left corner at the bottom of our toolbar, and you're going to notice that we have two colors selected, and right now it's blue and white, our school colors for the most part. And then if you look right above, and I'm going to move the mouse around it so you can see it, there's a black and white little mini overlapping colors there, and if we click on that, it's going to automatically change this to black and white, and that's where we need to start. You can change the color at any point by double clicking on the top color, not our background color, but the foreground color. That's where it says set foreground color. If we double click on that, you can select and make it really any color you want. You can make it a red. If you hit this little arrow right above it, you can switch those colors back and forth. But we want to hit this little black and white button and create black and white for the next step that we're selected. We are going to move up the toolbar, and on the toolbar in the middle, there's a tool that looks like a rectangle with a shadow in the middle. If you click and hold on that, hold down with your mouse, you'll notice that a couple other tools are going to expand out of there. You're going to see one is gradient tool, paint bucket tool, and that's what we want. We want paint bucket, not the 3D one, but the one in the middle, paint bucket. Click on that. Once you get your paint bucket and we have black selected, it's as simple as moving our mouse over and clicking one time. You click and it fills it in with black. So now we have this black, and around the outside is our gray space. We don't have to worry about this at all. We're just worried about the gray in the middle right here. And that looks good, and we can move on to the next step. We're going to start with our stars. So we're going to go up top and we're going to look in our menu for the word filter. Once we click on that word filter, we're going to see all these different options that are going to pop up. And we're going to go down until we find the word noise. We're looking for noise, and once we get there, we're going to move our mouse left to right until we get to the one called Add Noise. We're going to click on Add Noise. And what's going to happen here, you can see it's starting to add a little bit of noise, and the more we bring it up, the more noisy that it becomes, and we want to make it really noisy. And we want to change a couple of the settings. Right here we want to change to Gaussian, and we want to change to monochromatic. So now it's kind of looking like a big mess of black and white dots. It kind of looks like in the olden days when you had a TV turned on without the cable on, it would look all fuzzy like this. So we're going to click OK, and we're going to go with this. And we're going to make it all fuzzy looking like that. And this is going to end up being our background here. But we're not quite done yet, because the next step that we have to do is we're going to blur it out a little bit. So we're going to go back up top to Filter, and we want to go down until we find the word blur again. So look for blur, and what we want to find is Gaussian blur. There's Gaussian blur. We're going to click on that one. Click on Gaussian blur, and we're going to blur it a little bit. Let's say maybe around 2.2 pixels. That looks good. Somewhere around there is going to be good. A little more, a little less would be okay. So now we're going to blur it, and if I hit Command plus, it'll let me zoom in. If I hit Command minus, it'll let me zoom out. So that's kind of a fun thing just to do. We can zoom in and out with Command plus and Command minus. You'll see it's a little blurry, and that'll be important for our next step, because our next step is going to be something called levels. So we're going to go up under the Image menu next, all the way up under Image, and we're going to make an adjustment. So Image, Adjustments, Levels. We're going to click on the word Levels. And what we're going to get is a map, and this map is going to show us the amount of black, gray, and white in our image. So based on this map, you can see that there's more gray than anything else, which is true. But if we take this black slider and we start to bring it in towards the bottom of the mountain, and then the white one we start to bring in, you can see we're starting to create something that looks a little bit more like stars. But we're going to take our black over a little bit more, and we're going to adjust the gray back and forth, and a little bit more black, a little bit more white. And you'll be able to see yours might be slightly different than mine, but once we start bringing these three sliders together, you'll see that what it starts to create in the background, it looks like stars, it looks like a galaxy. And then we click OK, and now we have a really good start for our galaxy. What we're going to be making is our stars, and we're going to make them glow, which is going to be really nice. But before we get there, I want to do a quick little demonstration of how our layers work. So if I click on this tab that says Layers and I drag it out, I'm just going to do that for a second, and I'll bring it back later, but I really want to focus on our layers and showing you how they work. So right now we have one layer, and it's our background layer. If I were to take a pen right now, or a paintbrush, let's take the paintbrush tool, and I'm going to pick like a bright pink from over here. We can also change your color from down in this part, bottom left. But if I go and draw on my background, you're going to notice that that sticks right on my background, and that's permanent. So I'm going to go up here to Edit, Undo, or I can go into my history and get rid of that. I want to show you a different way that we're going to do things in Photoshop. In the bottom corner here, there's a little piece of paper. There's a trash button and paper and folders. The only one I want you to focus on is this one with the piece of paper, and click on that. And you'll notice now we have layer 1. It pops up, and now we have background layer 1. And I'm going to double click on layer 1. And when I double click right on the text there, it shows up in blue, and I'm going to type in stars, because this layer is going to be more stars, my glowing stars. Now if I take my pink and I draw on this layer, now you're going to notice right here that our background is black, and our stars layer has the pink on it. So if I take my eyeball and click, you'll notice that that will turn on and off. It's still there. The eyeball just means visible or invisible, but I don't want any of that there at all. We want to get rid of that. So what I'm going to do is, well, I can go back in my history if I want to, or I'm going to show you how to use a different tool, and right down on the toolbar we're going to have our eraser tool. So I'm going to move my eraser, and if I start erasing, that's definitely not big enough at all. So what you can do on the top menu here is you can see in the very top it's number 13 right now for our brush. So if I move it up, it makes it bigger and bigger and bigger. And if I'm around 150, if I move my mouse over, I can see that's pretty good. 150 is good. I can make it bigger too if I want. So now I'm around 200, and what I can do is go in now and erase and get rid of it. Yes, your history tool is going to work. You can go back in your history as well, but I just wanted to show you how the eraser works. So now our stars layer has nothing on it. It's looking good. It's totally empty. So we're going to switch from our eraser tool back to our paintbrush tool. And right now you'll notice our brush is still at 250. It's a really large brush size. So at the very top here, click on 250. The important thing is that the hardness of our brush needs to be all the way down to 0. And what that does is it makes it very soft. So if I click once, you'll notice the edges kind of fade out nicely, and that's kind of nice. That's what we want. So I'm going to go to Edit, Undo. I don't want that. I want a different color and I want a different size. So my color is actually going to be white. If I move my mouse down here, you'll notice white is my background color. So if I take this little arrow and I click it, it'll click back to white. And now I have white again. Okay, so Command Z, undo, edit, undo, same thing. So now we're back on our brush tool again, and it's at size 250, and that's huge. We don't really want that, so we're going to bring it down around maybe 15 to start with. And we need to make sure that once we have our size 15 brush, hardness all the way down, we move over to our layers and that we're on our stars and not our background. Because if we put it on our background, it's going to be, you can see in the little preview here, it's stuck on the background. So Command Z or Edit Undo, we're going to go to the stars layer, and what I'm going to start doing is making a couple stars in the sky, and I want them to be random. I mean, you can do the Big Dipper or Orion's Belt. Right now they're all exactly the same size. So I want you to look down at your keyboard and look at the letter P. Next to the letter P on the right hand side, there are 2 brackets. And when you press those brackets back and forth, if you tap the brackets, what's going to happen is it's going to make your brush bigger or smaller. So if we started somewhere around 15 and I tap the brush 1 time, 2 times, it's going to give me slightly bigger stars. So what I'm going to do is in my background, I am going to click different size. I'm going to keep tapping that bracket key and making my brush bigger or smaller. And I don't want them too big. You don't want to make one that big. That's a little too big. So you want to go somewhere under maybe 60. Even size 60 would be okay there. These little bit bigger ones are okay to use. So we're now filling in our galaxy a little bit more. And the couple can be close together. Make some smaller ones, some bigger ones here. And this is going to make it look like we have nice glowing stars. And this looks really nice in our background. So don't do too many. You want to kind of vary it a little bit. Fill up your background with some stars. I'm going to move this. I'm going to take my layers menu and I'm going to drag it right back in, and when it highlights blue, it's going to stick right back in there, and that's good. It was kind of in the way of this portion of my design. And I'm going to hit Command minus to zoom out a little bit, and that's pretty good. I think I want to get rid of 1 or 2 of these in the middle. I'm going to go back to my eraser, and I'm going to get rid of this one and that one. Maybe this one. So you can use your eraser and get rid of them if you like. And now we're going to move our mouse over to layers and click on that eyeball. And now you can see before and after with our stars. If there's too many, you can get rid of them with your eraser, or you can always add more stars in the background. So the next step is we're going to start adding sort of the colors and all the shape to our galaxy. Before I do that, in my bottom left corner here, I have white and pink selected. What I need to do is change my 2 colors back to black and white. So what I want to do is up here right above, we're going to click that black and white button to convert it to black and white for what we're going to do in our next step. Over here, then you're going to move your mouse to stars and background, and we want to make a new layer. So we're going to move our mouse down to that bottom corner and click on the button that looks like the piece of paper with the fold in it, and we're going to click on that, and we're going to click on it, and we're going to write clouds. And you'll see why in a minute. This is going to be clouds. So everything is separate. We have our background separate, we have our stars separate, and then we have our clouds. So we want to make sure we're on our clouds layer. Don't be on background, don't be on stars. Make sure you're selected on clouds. And we're going to move our mouse to the top, and we're going to click on filter. And we want to move our mouse down until we see the word render again. And we want to move our mouse from left to right and down to the word clouds. Once I click on it, it's going to add a layer with clouds over top. And this we're going to end up using and painting on color in a second. So hopefully you have this step. Remember, we have clouds, we have our stars, and we have them all stacked in a row. So clouds should be on top over here on that layer. Our next step is we need to take our mouse and move it over to our clouds layer. And, oh, not that. Ignore that, pretend that didn't happen. We're going to click on our clouds layer just one time. If you click it twice, that box pops up like I showed you. And when you're on your clouds layer on the right, move your mouse up slightly until you see the word normal. Click on that word normal and you're going to see this menu fold down out of there. And as you move them down, you're going to notice that our background changes a little bit. And the one that we want to end up on is the one that says color dodge. Now, it doesn't look like anything, but you have to trust me. In this next step where we brush in the color, it's going to look better. So click on Color Dodge. And then up here it should say Color Dodge, and it should look like this, not looking like this. So click back on normal. I'm just repeating it now. Go to normal, go to Color Dodge, and leave it like that. Our next step, we're going to start brushing in the color. So like I said, we have clouds, stars, and the background here, and we want to make another new layer. So we are going to click on clouds, and then we're going to click that button in the bottom right here, and now it says layer 1, and I'm going to double click on layer 1 until it turns blue, and I'm going to write color. Now our color needs to go behind our clouds layer. So we're going to take color, and we're going to click on it, and we're going to drag it down like this. When you start dragging it, you'll notice that it turns from a finger to a fist, and we pull down below clouds. And then on our clouds layer, we're going to now click on our clouds layer, we want to change from normal to color dodge. I'll show you how to do that. Click on the word clouds right here, and then move your mouse up to where you see the word normal. So click on the word normal right above it, and we want to go down until you see the word color dodge. Now as I move my mouse, you'll notice that it's previewing all different types of layer interactions. We're going to go to color dodge here, and what will happen is your clouds will disappear, and that's okay because they're going to come back in a minute. So you should have clouds, color dodge. Your color layer is still normal. So now we want to go in our color layer, and we want to start adding the color behind our clouds. So we want to go over to our paintbrush, and up top right now we have 38 as our size. We're going to click at the top menu, and we want to change our brush size to, I don't know, somewhere around 150, like that. Then we want to pick a color for our galaxy. Now we've looked at some in class, and we know that we see pinks and blues and purples. So I'm going to start with this really bright fuchsia color. It's kind of pink, kind of purple. And on the keyboard next to the letter P, we have those brackets. And when I type those brackets, it's going to make my brush bigger or smaller. So make sure you're on color layer. And what you're going to do is start painting in the background a little bit. And you'll notice it's really intense, really, really intense. So I'm going to go over here to my color layer, and this is going to look great once I do it. We click on color and move up to the word opacity, and that's how see-through something is. If I bring it all the way down, you don't see it because it's totally see-through. But if I bring it up just a little bit, and we have that nice lower opacity, I'm only around 17% right now. If I move it way up, it gets really overblown. But if I bring it down, we get that nice soft galaxy look. So we're going to stick with that. You can make another layer for your next color if you like, and then they can blend together, or you can do them all on the same. So I can click and make another layer if I want, or you can do them on the same layer. And I'm going to click with blue, and now I'm going to start adding a little bit of blue in here, like that. So we know it's too intense. So once that blue is so intense, we can go to opacity and bring that down as well and get a nice soft little blue fade there. That's looking good. Now let's make another layer, and I'm going to go up and do, maybe we'll do a really lighter pink here and add a little bit of that lighter pink. Now we want to do this randomly. We don't really want to make it so there's a specific pattern. We want to make it look like it's naturally filling in on its own. Now we do layer 2 and we bring the opacity down. And what I'm going to do actually is rename them. I'm going to call layer 2, I'm going to double click on it and call that, actually we're going to call it, we'll call it pink. This one we're going to call it dark pink or fuchsia. Layer 2 is going to be light blue. I'm going to rename all my layers just so I know where everything is. And I'm going to click and make one more. Maybe we'll do a purple in here. I like adding a little bit of purple at the end. I'm going to click a nice purple, double click, purple, type that in, and I'm going to start adding a larger purple area here to kind of fill in any areas I missed before. Bring my opacity down like that. Maybe pump it up a little bit more. That looks good. So now we have dark pink, light blue, pink, and purple for the clouds in the background of our galaxy. Part 1, and now we're going to get on to part 2, which is the planets. Now the planets, hopefully you've downloaded off of our Google Classroom site, and they're made up of all different things, which I'm sure we've talked about in class already. And I have them all downloaded here, and we can kind of pick and choose which one you really like, the cow, cracked log, or cracks, and who knows, and they're all just different things from the real world that you can drag and use as your planet. I think this one's great. This one has the rust on it. So I'm going to take it here, and there's a couple ways we can do this. We can click and we can drag it right in like this. I'm holding down my mouse, and then I release my mouse, and it brings it in, and that's one way we can get our shape in there. Another one is we can go like this. We can go to File, and we're looking for the word place. File, place embedded. So we're going to go to File, Place Embedded, and we're going to look in our Downloads folder, and I know where all my different planets are already, and I wanted Rust. So I'm going to hit Rust, I'm going to go to Place, and in the upper corner, what we want to do is click on our Move tool, and that's at the very top of our toolbar, and it has all different directional arrows on it, and that's going to help us move our shape around like this. Now, what you'll have to do in order to resize it, this is important. You have your shape, we have your move tool, and you're going to look right on the top, and there's a button that says Show Transform Controls. We're going to click on that, and as soon as we do, you'll notice that little blue box pops up around the edge. So what I can do is I can take my planet now, and I move my mouse right to one of the white boxes in the corner, and what I can do is make it a little smaller. Now I can resize it and click and drag to move it wherever I want. So I'm going to start with it maybe in the upper right corner here, and then I'm going to double click to get rid of this X. We double click and then the X goes away. Now if you look over at our layers, you'll notice that it's called Rust. It already has a name because when we imported it, it was imported with the name Rust. So now that is our Rust layer, and we have our planet. So I want you to at least include, I don't know, 2 or 3 planets. You can do more than that. It's up to you how many planets you want to put in. I'll let you guys kind of create your own world here. But there's still some things we need to do to our planet. And one of those things is hopefully you downloaded the shadow. We need to put a shadow on our planet. So we're going to go up to our File menu again, and we're going to go to Place Embedded. Click that. Or the other thing you can do is you can go right down here to the smiley face, the Finder, and we can go to our Downloads, click on Downloads on the left, and look for Shadow. So you can also just drag it directly in like this. So there's our shadow. It's now too big. So we're going to make sure we're on our Move tool and that we have Show Transform Controls checked, and we're going to drag that corner box, and we're going to resize our shadow. and we're going to take it and put it right over top of our planet like this to create a shadow as though there is some kind of light source coming from the upper side here. So I'm going to double click in the middle, and notice if I click the eyeball and turn it on and off, now we have this nice shadow on the side of the planet. And you can move that shadow around. You can have it on this side. You can make the shadow bigger so that it takes up more of the planet. You can choose how you want to do that shadow. I'm going to resize it to about there. And I'm going to double click, and there's my shadow. We're going to need the shadow again later, so we'll drag in another one later on. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to put some effects on our planet. So if I start putting these effects on, I don't want the effects on the shadow. I want to click on my rust layer because it's my rust planet. I want to do some effects on my planet. So I'm going to go to rust, and once we're on that layer, we're going to double click in this gray area on the side, and it'll bring up my layer style menu. Or you can click on rust and go down and click this FX button, and that will pop up our blending options as well. Same thing, exactly the same thing, just different ways to reach it. Now you can move this window around. If the window is covering your planet, you're going to want to move it over to the side so that we can see our planet. So get it in a place where you can actually see it. So what we want to do is we want to click one of these options here, and the one we want is called Inner Glow. So we're going to click right on the word Inner Glow, and when you click on the word Inner Glow, it's going to give us all of our options. So what we want to do is here where we have either white or a yellow selected. I think the white is the default, but we're going to set the color of the glow. I'm going to click on it, and I want to click a nice light blue color to make it look like there's an atmosphere around our planet. And we're going to bump up the size, bump up the choke a little bit, the jitter. You can change the opacity, and notice what happens to our planet when you bump the opacity up. You can see that now there's this blue glow around it. So if I turn this on and off, if I hit the check, take a look at the planet as I'm clicking this button. Now you can see it looks like the planet actually has an atmosphere around the outside. It looks really nice and really accurate, really 3D. So that's Inner Glow, and we're going to redo this on the other planets later too. So we click OK. There's our planet. We want to import a couple more. So now we have rust, and we have Inner Glow as our effect. We can turn it on and off by hitting the eyeball here. We want to add another planet. A couple ways to do that. I'm going to do it a different way, the way I did it the first time. I'm going to go to File, Place, Embedded, and I'm going to find my planets. Here they are. I'm going to find another one that I really like. The next one that I would like to do is Ship. This is the side of a battleship. And what we're going to do is we're going to click on our Move tool here, and we're going to resize it. But for this one, I want to keep it large, and I want to have it go off the edge like this, like it's cropped and we can't see the entire planet. We're going to double click, and now if we look at this, it's kind of a nice setup. I have them balanced. I think my third one I may put right up here and have three kind of working in a triangle formation. I may put my third one here. But before I get to my third one, we're going to look over here. We see we have Ship, and we want to put Outer Glow on our ship as well, and then we'll add the shadow after. You can do it in any order. So over at Ship, I'm going to double click in this gray area next to the word Ship and get my layer style. I'm going to move it over. I'm going to click the gray on the top to move my window over, and I'm going to click right on the word Inner Glow again. And that's a little too bright. So and it's gonna depend on each planet. So I'm gonna bring the opacity down a little bit. I'm gonna bring the noise down a little bit. The size you can always change to make it look more round if you bring the size up or down. And I think I'm gonna go with something around here. That looks good. I'm gonna click OK. Now I need a shadow. I need to match what this planet looks like, so I need another shadow. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click back on my ship layer, and I'm going to go click on my finder here, and I'm going to take shadow and click on it and drag it right in and release, and there's my shadow. It's a little big. I'm going to click on my move tool, and I'm going to shrink it down a little, and then I'm going to move it to my bottom corner right down here. Now if that's too dark and you think that your shadow is too dark for you, what you can do is click on, make sure you're on your shadow layer here, and I'm going to move it up to opacity. I'm going to pull my opacity down, and you'll notice it becomes a little bit darker up here and then a little bit lighter if I pull it down somewhere around 82. But you decide. It all depends on what planet that you're using, whether or not you want to make your shadows lighter or darker. Those look good. Now I want to add a third planet. For my third planet, remember there's two ways. We can go to File, Place Embedded, or we can go down to the little smiley face finder and find another planet and add that in. Let's go with the Decay. This is also Rust. I like this one a lot. I'm going to take it, drag it right in, release, and I'm going to resize. I'm going to make it a little smaller, further in the distance. I'm going to move it up with my Move tool. And once I find the spot I like, I'm going to double click. That looks good. And now, do I want to move it around? No, I like it right there. That looks great. So now I'm going to move over to my Decay layer here and double click to add my Inner Glow. Click right on the word Inner Glow, and it's probably going to copy what I had previously. So that was a little much. So I'm going to bring the size down a little for my planet. That works. And then I need a shadow as well. So for my shadow, same thing, go to Finder, and I'm going to go into my Downloads folder, click on my shadow, drag it in, resize it, nice and small, and I'm going to bring it right over top here. And then I think I'm going to bring down my opacity. So shadow, opacity, bring it down a little bit. Nope, more than that. Somewhere around there. Great. Double click in the middle and click off of it and take a look at my galaxy. I think I could use maybe one more in the bottom here. I think I'm going to add one more planet. Let's do one more. So let's go into our planets one more time and pick another planet that we're going to like. That will go with it nicely. Let's do the wood planet here. It's made from driftwood. And we're going to click Move tool. We're going to shrink it down. And we're going to move it right down here. I'm going to have it just coming off the edge a little bit. I'm going to double click next to the word wood and add my Inner Glow. Click on the word Inner Glow. Maybe bring the size up a little bit more, like that. Great. Now I need my shadow again, so click on Finder, and I'm going to go to Downloads and bring in my shadow, drag it in. There's my shadow. Resize it. Put my shadow on the planet, shrink it a little bit, like that, and double click, and there we have our shadow. Great. And looking at it, I'm pretty happy. I think I'm happy with the way my galaxy looks. It's nice, it's strong, it's well balanced, there isn't too much. I think there's a good balance of size. We have some larger ones, we have some smaller ones. Now the larger ones look closer to us, obviously. And then what I have to do at the end of every class, and I've probably already told you this by the time you're watching this in the video, but we have to go to File and Save. I'm just going to do Save As, and I'm going to call it Galaxy Template. I'm going to call this one the example. You don't call it that. You're just going to naturally hit Save, and it's saving in my downloads. And then the last thing that we have to do is you have to upload it to Google Classroom so that I have access to it, so that I can print them out or put them online for our art show. Hopefully you enjoyed this. I think these Galaxy projects are great, and I think it's great for all ages. I hope you enjoyed it. Feel free to show this one with your friends, and thanks for watching. Bye.